Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you all for attending this webinar here. So a very warm welcome from my side, and it's my pleasure now to give you some information about our master program. So the first thing I would like to tell you is that this master program is at the University of Passau, and Passau, as you might have seen on a map, is a place in the very southeast of Germany, very close to the borders to Austria and also to Czech Republic. And it is not a big city. It's a city of about 50,000 people living here, but it is a very lively city. It is a lively city because there are many students around, and you will hear a bit more about that later. And it's also a city where many tourists are in. So therefore, all of these tourists and students make the city quite lively, although it is not a big city in terms of size. This slide here shows you some impressions of Passau that you may get when you first search on the internet for Passau. And you may already see here that it's a very beautiful place. Passau as a city is very beautiful, but also the university is very beautiful and has been voted the most beautiful campus of German universities for several times in the past. So therefore, this is a good place to study in terms of the city and the university, both being beautiful, but it's also a good place to study because when we turn to the harder facts, the University of Passau and our faculty specifically has performed quite well in rankings. So this slide is supposed to tell you a bit about that. I point to two rankings here. One of them might be one which you have not seen before, and that is the World University Ranking for Young Universities. So the Young University Ranking is important for Passau because Passau is a university that was just created in 1979, so is not 50 years old until now. So therefore, it's still a young university. But even in the bigger ranking of the World University, it performed quite well. And you can see here that the subject area which we are representing here, business, economics, information systems, ranks among the best 201 to 250 faculties worldwide. So that is a huge success, and it shows that we are very strong when it comes to research and publishing the research in the most prominent journals in the fields of business economics and information systems. The ranking at the bottom here is a different kind of ranking because that is a ranking which is published in Germany, and this captures the student satisfaction basically with their study programs. And in this ranking, CHE, the University of Passau in different degrees, including the master program that we are discussing here today, has performed very well. So therefore, if you look in detail into those rankings, you will see that the University of Passau got quite positive feedback from the students in the past. And this ranking is just being revisited this year. So the 2026 edition is just in the making. So I think it will come out later this year. So if you don't start the study program this year, but maybe next year, then you will have the opportunity to take a look at the new numbers and then also see, and what I hope, of course, is the case that Passau will kind of cement that great position in this ranking. So just a short glimpse at our faculty here. So you can see all those faces here on the slide. So these are the colleagues here at the faculty who are in business, who are in economics or information systems, and all of them play some role in this master program. Of course, the business part is the most central part, but you can also choose economics courses here in your program, and you may also want to take in business information systems. So you may come across quite a number of those colleagues here when you decide to study business administration in Passau. So some key data are summarized on this slide, and I point you to the one in the middle here. 1,308 students at the faculty in total. Of that, only about 300, 400 students are in the master program. So the master program is really not a very big program. And I think that is one of the big advantages of studying in Passau, that typically in the master you will not have big courses with 100 other students. You will have rather smaller groups. And that, of course, is something which is good in terms of A, building relationships with other students, but also B, having closer contacts with your docents in those courses. And I think that Passau is a very good setting for doing both of that, because here there are good contacts to your colleagues and also to the professors and other docents that you have in the courses. So then I would like to tell you something in particular for international students about the number of international students. So the master programs at our faculty, they are all in English. So we have a Master of International Economics, we have a Master of Information Systems, And the biggest master in our school here is the Master of Business Administration that we are discussing today. So here we just moved to an international master program about 1.5 years ago. So as you see, we currently have about 140 international students here in that master program. And every year we take up about 150 new students in that master program, and about 2/3 of them are now international students. Yeah? So therefore we have seen a sharp increase now in the number of international students. And from the experience of the first semesters, we can tell that in the courses this works quite well. So we have a very broad mixture of nationalities there in most of the courses, and we have very good interactions between different backgrounds here and very good discussions there. Okay, so then I would like to turn to the, let's say, more formal issues. So Christine Goldner already pointed you to some of the specifics of this master. So it's not an executive master, it's a consecutive master which builds on a bachelor's program. And this slide is supposed to give you some of the key facts first. And that is the degree, as I mentioned. It's a Master of Science, which builds on a bachelor program that you already finished. So a Bachelor of Science. Then some key facts include also that it's 4 semesters. So the master programs in Germany and many parts of continental Europe usually take 2 years, 4 semesters. And that's the same for this program. And this is reflected in a workload of 120 ECTS credits. So in Europe, we have this ECTS system. So if you already did your bachelor study in Europe, you will know that. If you didn't do that, you have to get familiar with that ECTS logic, because that reflects how much you're supposed to every semester. So the norm is that you should do 30 ECTS per semester. There is some information here about the application period. So the current application period runs until 15th of July for the direct applications. But if you submit your application from outside the European Economic Area, then you have to supply them via UniAssist. And here the deadline is 2 weeks earlier. So that is the end of June this year. So you still have a few weeks left for the next application deadline, but that is the application deadline for the next winter semester. So if you want to start here in October, then you have to apply now. If you want to start later, then of course it's only in January, so then of course it's half a year later. So entering this master program is possible every semester. So you can start in the summer term, you can start in the winter term. So currently we have more students starting in the winter semester, but we also have a substantial number of students. So last April, about 50, 60 students started here with the master program in the summer term. So both is possible, and there are no kind of disadvantages if you start in the summer term. The language of the master program, as I mentioned before, is generally English. However, there are a few courses in the program which are still taught in German. And the simple reason for that is that some subject areas are by topic kind of German. So for example, if you talk about tax law, that is something which is very close here to the German law, and therefore this module, for example, is still taught in German. But these are exceptions, and the vast majority of the courses are offered in English. So you will be able to basically do all the majors and nearly all the minors that I will show you in a few minutes completely in English. And now I come to the entry requirements. So here I will say a few words about the academic requirements and the language requirements. So in terms of academic requirements, here I come back to what I said earlier with this being a consecutive master. So therefore it's important that you bring a bachelor degree in business administration, economics, or some related discipline. And this degree must be with a certain grade. So we have a grade here based on the German grading scale, or the equivalent in your country where you did your bachelor degree. And the important point, however, is usually the second point here. So this degree must include at least 60 ECTS, or the corresponding kind of workload in your country setting, in business and economics. So a substantial part, at least 1/3 of your bachelor program, must be about business and economics, and must include explicitly courses on business and economics. And from these 60 ECTS, you must have done at least 10 ECTS in research methods. Research methods we define quite broadly, everything to do with data collection, data analysis, mathematics, statistics, or any other kind of research method, but there need to be some modules here in your bachelor degree that reflect those research methods. So that is kind of the content requirement, I would say, for the master program. Why do we have that? Well, because in the master program, we don't start from zero. So we expect that you have some background in business economics so that you can participate in our courses. So therefore, we require basically that you bring here at least 60 ECTS in business economics and 10 ECTS in the research methods. So an additional point here regarding the academic requirements, which is very relevant if you come from a non-signatory state to the Lisbon Convention. So if you come from outside the European Union plus several other countries which have signed this convention, then you need to bring in additionally a GMAT. And you have to provide that with your application. So you have to provide a GMAT which shows that you have reached 600 points, or if you do this specific focus edition, 565 points. So that documentation is required for you to being able to enter here the master program in Passau. Moreover, we have language requirements, so you need to provide evidence of English language skills at level B2. And for those of you who don't have German as a native language, you need to provide evidence of German language skills at the level A1. However, for the German language skills, we don't require that you have that when you apply or when you start your study in Passau, but you can basically hand that in by the end of your first year. So it's enough if you do this course here when you are in Passau, you do the German A1 course, then you get the certificate, and then you hand that in, and then that is solved. Yeah, so you don't need to have that up front, but you can still do the German course here once you are registered, enrolled in the study program in Passau. But then you have to do it. You have to do it within your first year. Okay, so that I think is an important slide, in particular for those of you who have not studied in Passau during the bachelor program, because I think those requirements here are very important to consider. Okay, so then we turn next to the structure of the program. So as you can see here, we have different elements in this master program. One element is the method courses, the methodological foundations. So we require, as you saw on the slide before, that you had some method courses during your bachelor studies. However, to bring you all on the same level, to some extent at least, we also require that you take 2 method courses here in the master. So we require that you take 2 courses, which corresponds to 10 ECTS here in the master program in method courses. And there you don't have much choice because there are only 3 courses on offer here deliberately for these method courses. One of them is in German. So therefore, if you are a non-native German speaker, then you have to take the 2 method courses that we have in this part here, which are the fundamentals of business analytics and business research methods. And as I said before, this is supposed to bring you all on the same level playing field here when it comes to methods, because you will need them in the other courses during your master program. So you would typically also take those 2 courses in your first semester because that's a basis for other courses in your majors and minors. And that brings me to the second part here, the part B, majors and minors. So this is a central element of our master program. It's a Master of Business Administration, which sounds very general, and it gives you opportunities to do many different things from business administration here. However, what you have to do is you have to focus on one big specialization area, and that we call a major here. So you have to choose a major 1, as we call it, because most of your studies then will be in this major. So you can see here 47 ECTS, plus your master's thesis, which is 23. So together this gives you 70 ECTS. So 70 ECTS is the majority of your ECTS in the master program. That will be in your first major. So you have to pick one major. That's compulsory. You have to do that. But regarding the rest of your studies, what you do with the other 40 ECTS, because 10 is compulsory methods, as I showed before, what you do with the other 40, that's basically up to you. You can say you want to have a second big specialization, that would be a second major, or you can say that you want to have 1 or 2 more smaller specializations, that would be what we call here minors, or you can also decide that you choose courses from here and there, from all over the study program, and basically put together a broader portfolio here of courses from business administration. So that is up to you to decide, but what is mandatory is that you pick one major. You don't have to make that decision before you start studying or even not in your first semester, but by taking certain courses, you basically make the decision to take a certain major. Yeah? So that is how it works here. By registering for certain exams, then you make the decision to take a certain major. So therefore, you don't have to decide that on day one, but you decide it by taking certain courses and then going for a certain major here in our program. The final part, which is listed down here, foreign business language, that is optional. So you can do that in your study program if you want, but you don't have to do it. Yeah? So here you can take up to 10 ECTS, which is usually a 2-semester course in a language of a foreign business language. You can bring that into here, into your master program. But this doesn't work if you have a second major, because then you're already full with 2 specializations, 2 big specializations. Then this doesn't work. But if you keep the rest open, the addition to major 1, if you keep that more open, then you can easily also include foreign language courses here up to 10 ECTS. Okay, so that's basically the general structure. And now you may ask, what are the majors and minors here? So we do have 6 majors. So as I mentioned before, you have to pick one of them when you study business administration. So the majors are accounting and tax, data science, entrepreneurship, finance, information systems, digital business, and management and strategy. So whichever of those you pick, in this major, you will do most of the work during your master program. So as I mentioned before, 70 ECTS out of the 120 ECTS will be in this major. And then what you decide to do in addition to that depends on your preferences. So you may decide you want to do 2 of those majors, but you also may want to decide that you combine a major with 1 or 2 minors. And the minors, as you can see on the right-hand side, well, typically they kind of split up a major. Yeah? So let me take the first one because I'm from accounting. So if you take accounting and tax as a major, well, then this is basically split up on the minor level into a minor on taxation and another minor on reporting and controlling. So for example, when you decide to do the major in finance, then you may want to decide to combine that with a minor in reporting and controlling, because there are also some overlaps between the finance and reporting controlling topics. And then this might be a good combination for you. But then, of course, depends on your preferences. And as I said before, you don't have to decide that early on, but you can decide that during your studies, when you attend the courses, when you like certain courses, when you register for the exams, that's the way how you basically decide on your majors and minors. And at the bottom of the minors side here, you can see that we have 3 cross-cutting minors. One is in artificial intelligence, one is in sustainability, and the final one is in economics. So these are minors which don't have a direct reflection in the majors, but which are more kind of cross-cutting, or in the case of economics, rather additional, offering additional courses here if you have a stronger interest in economics as well. So just to give you one example of how you could do things here in the master program, so 4 semesters. And as I mentioned before, it's advisable to start with the method courses, methodological foundations. And then during the semesters, you would typically attend courses from the major during 3 semesters, or maybe even all 4 semesters. You would pick some of the courses from the major, which now in this case here includes the accounting and tax major. And then you may combine that in this example here with 2 minors, and that could be minor in finance and minor in AI. So that would be one variant here. But of course, there are many others. How you combine things is completely up to you. The only thing which we require you to do is to choose one major, but we don't make any further requirements regarding the structure of your studies. That's basically your decision. Okay, so there are 2 more things that I would like to mention. The first one is that this is an international program, not just because our courses are offered in English. And of course, you can do regular exchange semesters, but we also offer double degree programs with 4 institutions, which are mentioned here. And we also have a joint master with the Institute of Technology in Madras in India. So these are also opportunities that you have when you start studying in Passau. There are usually separate applications for those double degree programs and for the joint master program. So you can find more details about that on our website if you're interested in that. But of course, otherwise, if you just want to do a semester abroad, that is also possible. And we also have a number of partner institutions all around the world. So therefore, an exchange semester in the master program is something which is very regularly done by many of our students. The second thing I would like to mention is that the University of Passau also has a very strong focus on entrepreneurship. You may have seen earlier, there is a major you can do in entrepreneurship, but there is also additional support here available if you want to create your own business. So therefore, we have this entrepreneurial pathfinder certificate, which you can do, and which has also been awarded a great prize here, the German Employer Prize. And there's also an honors degree in entrepreneurship where you can do additional courses, some of which you can also bring into your master studies. So if you're interested in becoming an entrepreneur, there are close links here in this study program, and there are additional opportunities here which you have at the University of Passau. So for further information, I would point you to the website of our master program. And if you have questions about the application process, there is an email address here which you can send your questions to. This is directly about, for example, your documents, or for example, what you need if this documentation is valid for the process. If you have questions about that, you can address them to this to this email address. And the second email address here is more general. If you have questions about the program in general, if you have questions about Passau, then you can also contact here the second email address, which is mentioned on this slide. You will get all the slides afterwards. They will be sent to you, so then you can get back to those email addresses. Yeah, so overall, I think Passau and its university is a good choice, and I also hope I could give you some idea about the master program Business Administration, and that this could be a good choice for you. So I would look forward to welcome many of you, of course, here in Passau.